Hi class. I will be going over another video today. We'll be talking a lot about color and typography, which should serve you well as you're doing your first project, which has a lot to do with typography and color. So the first thing I want to do is open up a new file in Illustrator, and you'll notice that we went over this before, but you'll notice your color mode has CMYK and RGB. So CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. RGB stands for red, green, and blue. So if you're going to do something for print, you always want to use CMYK. If you're going to do something for the screen like web or a tablet, you want to use RGB. Now, because we're doing a logo project, you probably want to start off with CMYK. I'll make my resolution at 300, and I'll make a letter size, and I'll make it portrait. I'll say OK. Now, one of the first things you want to do is understand how color works in Illustrator. So if I create a box, by default I have this black and white shape. So I can do a couple things. I can double click in this white area, and then I can select a color from the the color wheel or the color squares. But I also have these inputs right here where I can put cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So if you know an exact color of a particular object, you know the CMYK colors, you can actually punch them in. So if somebody gives you a logo with CMYK, you can punch it in, or a banner, you can punch that color in. You also have your RGB colors over here. So if we put 100% cyan and 0% magenta and 0% yellow and 0% K, which is black, you will get that sky blue. You say OK, you have this color in here. Now on your swatches panel, you will see the color automatically comes up here with the outline being black. So you can actually take this color and drag it into the swatches panel so you can save that swatch for later. So if you change the color, you may want to come back to that blue color, you'll have it right there. So that's the swatches panel. Has some default colors. You may have different default colors than I do, but you can add colors to that swatches, and you can also create groups, and you can also create folders with different types of color. So if you have a particular client that uses a certain color palette, you can then add a folder just for that client. So understanding that you can also do what's called a source of a color. So for instance, if you were to get, let's say I wanted to place a file, and that file is taking a while to come up. Let's say I dragged in a photo that has CMYK colors, and I wanted to find that particular color. I can so let's say I want to. So this is just this is a screenshot, let's say, of pretty much anything. So here's a screenshot of some banners. So I found a screenshot. I'm going to place a file, a screenshot I took of a mobile phone screen. So let's say you had an image. It could be any image, and you wanted to find that color. So you can use your little eyedropper right here, and then let's say you clicked on this blue box. You take your eyedropper and you click on that little green, and it actually changes. This box changes to the color of the green, and then you can go into that green color and figure out what the CMYK and what the RGB colors match are. So if you wanted to find the exact match, you can click on any one of those colors. If you wanted to even go to the gray or that color. So that's a lot of times what designers will do is, they will take a screenshot of maybe a particular color they like, or maybe a client sends them a brochure or something. They can pull that brochure in to the website, into their Illustrator file or Photoshop file or even InDesign file, and then you can source that color. So let's say we want to source that sort of greenish color. So then we have that particular color, and then we can add that color to our swatches panel. It's a very useful feature in colors. So you can always, you can add a range of colors. You can double click on it. Same with the line or the stroke. Excuse me, the stroke. You can create a stroke, and then that stroke color could be dragged into the swatches panel again. Okay, so it's and if you mouse over it, you could also change in the swatches panel. You can change. You can have new color groups and new swatches added to this particular group, and then you have a swatch library. So one of the things you're going to do is use Pantone colors. So the difference between the Pantone color and the CMYK color is that Pantone colors are generally used for things like logos. So a Pantone is an actual color that's not made up of CMYK. So it's a flat color. Think of it as almost like paint. It's a flat paint that's not mixed. So you really want to use logos. You really want to use Pantones. So for instance, this CMYK. Let's say I want to choose a Pantone color. I'm going to design a logo, and I'm going to use my name. I'm using the Shift Command right arrow to quickly make my font larger. So let's say I have black. I could simply choose any color in the swatches panel, but these are all CMYK colors. So to access the Pantone colors, you have a couple different ways. You can do it here in the swatches panel. You can go arrow, open swatch library. The ones I like to use is color books and Pantone solid uncoded. So if you have a business card that's going to be flat, you probably want to use uncoded. If you have a business card that's shiny, which I don't like, but if you have those with a very glossy finish, you can use the coded. So what will happen if you choose this? You end up with a particular range of colors. Now, how do you know which one to choose? Now, there are Pantone books that are out there where you could actually sift through a Pantone book, and that Pantone book will give you the exact color, and you could just punch a number in. So if if it's 132, okay, it's going to give you that particular color. You could just type the number in. So if it's whatever the number is, you get a range of different colors. Once you click on one of those, your image will change, and the Pantone color actually gets deposited or added to your swatches. And if you mouse over it, you will see Pantone 7675U, and the U means it's uncoded. If I had Pantone colors that were coded, and the other way to get to that is to go to Window and scroll down to Swatch Libraries, Color Books, and let's do a coded one now. A coded means it'll give you a brighter color. So you can see the uncoded is very dull. The coded is much brighter. So if I click on this and I choose that, I'll get the Pantone 110C, and the C stands for coded. So if you're using CMYK colors or Pantone colors, now if you double click on this, you'll still get a color equivalent of Pantone. I forgot to mention is also hexadecimal color, so you can also see the web safe color. But this is still considered Pantone because we chose it here. But you can still, if you were to actually type in these numbers, it'll be pretty close to 16, 31, 100. If I were to click on that green and change it to 16, 31, 100, see, I'll get a color that's very, very close. So even though they look almost exactly the same, one color is actually CMYK. Notice it's not highlighted in the swatches panel, and the other one is the actual Pantone 110C. So it highlights. So that's the difference. And if you were to go to a printer and print this document, you would actually have 5 colors because one is CMYK, which is 4 colors, and the other one is a Pantone. So they have to add the Pantone color, which would make it 5 colors. So you have a 5-color job. Generally, you want to keep it to 4 colors. So if you had a Pantone color and you were going to print that Pantone color, and like in a brochure, or you're going to print it on an ad, and it has to be CMYK, what you want to do is you want to change that color, that Pantone color, to CMYK. And you can change it, the color mode, you can change it by double clicking on the Pantone and changing the book color to CMYK, and it'll automatically change that color to CMYK. Notice that the color is not exactly the same as this one. And then you have to change the spot color to process color. So process means CMYK, spot color means Pantone. So sometimes you'll hear me say spot color, or you may hear me say Pantone. It means the same thing. Or I might say process color or CMYK. That also means the same thing. So very important, understanding your Pantones and how they work, because if you have Pantones in a job, 2 or 3 Pantones, and then you have CMYK, you actually have 7 colors. So in logo design, you probably don't ever want to go over 3 colors. That's sort of the maximum. That's sort of the industry standard. You don't go over 3 colors. Better if you have 1 color or maybe 2, but no more than 3. The other thing about color is that you can also choose gradients. So you have the gradient panel. So over here, by default, it's grayscale. And it's not highlighted yet. So even though the image is highlighted, I have to choose linear, and it changes to just black and white gray. So if you want to add colors to your gradient, you can pull them from the actual swatches panel into the gradient panel. So I have to select the image first, and then drag it into this little box. So you get a green into a black, which is not a very good fade. But then you can change this other color, this other black could be a different green. And then you tend to have colors like blue and green tend to mix a lot better, or colors like red and yellow, right? They tend to mix a lot better. So colors that are that belong, analogous colors, right? They belong in the family, yellow, orange, red, or blue, green, light blue, or purple, and blue. But make sure you have the color selected or the object selected to get that color. You can also change the percentage, the angle, by typing in, minus 90 degrees is going to go in the opposite direction. And if you try this 90 degrees, it's going to go from dark to light. 180 degrees is going to go side by side, and minus 180 will go the other direction. So you can also have radial gradients. You can also change your opacity on these actual colors. So you say you have a gradient, a linear gradient. On this one, you can do a percentage of that color. So you can do like 60%, hit enter, and then from this one you can do 20%. So it's a 20% gradation. So you don't always have to have 100% of the color all the time. I'm going to go back where I had 100%. You can also, with transparency in Illustrator, click on the actual color and then change your opacity to 20%. Sorry, 20. So you can have a gradient. That's not probably showing up as much. Maybe 60%. So the entire object is 60% of the original, but you still have a gradient on it. If I were to change that gradient to a flat color, it'll go away. So if I want to get that gradient back, I want to, and you can also drag your gradients into your swatches panel. So you can come back to that gradient. So if you change the color and you're like, oh, I want to go back to the gradient, you can just go back to the gradient. So you can save your colors in your swatches panel for use later on. You can also save your gradients in your swatches panel. So in the next video, I'll talk a little bit more about typography and how to use color and typography in Illustrator. Right? See you soon.